Well, hi, folks. And once again, welcome to Real Estate Talk. I'm your host, Ken Sax. And we're going to switch it up a little bit this time. We're always talking about things that can educate the buyer and the seller and the real estate market. But we're going to talk about something a little different. And this is going to be around the real estate agent, the realtor, and more specifically, the new realtor, and more specifically, the biggest mistakes, top 10 mistakes that new realtors make when they enter the industry. So you may think, oh, well, this doesn't interest me or doesn't pertain to me, but there are going to be viewers that it does pertain to and are interested in it, and maybe you'll just learn something anyways, and it'll be fun. It'll be fun for us.
You got it.
So top 10 biggest mistakes that realtors are making when they enter the industry. And again, my guests are Rick Flann and Tanya Tyler with Keller Williams Spokane. So folks, welcome once again. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for letting us hang out with you, Ken.
Yeah, you bet. And we've seen new realtors. We are around new realtors. I know I've been in the business about 26 years. 3 years?
3-ish for me, yeah.
3-ish?
I'm 3-ish too.
And 3-ish, okay. So let's talk about the mistakes that we are seeing new realtors making, and hopefully there are some new realtors watching who now can avoid making those mistakes and the pitfalls associated with them. So where do we want to start?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, whenever you start something new, there's challenges, right? And the expectation is not that you're perfect. The expectation is that we're growing in our professionalism, that we're humble enough to learn. And
Yes.
so I think that's like the biggest key is, are you teachable?
Learning-based.
Learning-based agents are the agents who succeed at a high level and actually just succeed. And so when we kind of put these 10 together, it's not in any particular order, but one thing that we did talk about was the idea of systems.
Yes.
Right? That it's easy to just get into something and just start doing stuff. Throwing things at the wall. You're getting calls about marketing, and you're going to spend $5 here and $100 there. You're listening to this agent, and why not, right? Or even, you're not the guy, but maybe there's the agent who's been in the business 26 years that's actually maybe giving you bad advice that would have been great 26 years ago.
Right.
Right? So
True.
it's hard being a new agent. You've got all kinds of stuff coming at you. And so one of the biggest...
And you're 100% commission.
Yeah, so you got to figure it out fast.
You're not
most of the
getting a
time.
paycheck unless you sell
Exactly.
I always say I don't get paid until I sell.
Exactly.
Right.
So
And I say I wake up unemployed every day.
Bingo. So one of the things we talk about over at our office is the idea of E to P, entrepreneurial to purposeful.
Sure.
Right? So we're all entrepreneurs in that 1099 realm, business owners. And ultimately, if you don't have a purpose to how you're doing what you're doing, you're going to crash and burn. So when you're brand new in the business, the beauty of it is you actually have the ability to build on models of others that have come before you.
Right.
So one of the most important things that I would say with that is education. Are you actually learning contracts? Are you talking to your designated broker, practicing those things? Are you working on your business side of it? So many times you're just taught as you're a salesperson, not a business owner. So one thing that we do is we track our trainings, for example. Last year over year, the agents who went to 2 or more trainings a month grossed $68,000 more a year, right? So it's just a simple illustration for a new agent, go and learn from people who've done things at a higher level than you.
Yes.
Yep.
So as a new
True.
agent, I hear that. And how much more on average am I making?
Yeah, we track every agent who goes to training, and those who get trained make $68,000 more a year on average.
By going to 2 or more trainings.
Yep.
That's it.
A month.
A month.
So we're talking
that's amazing.
2 hours, maybe 4.
Right.
I mean, you want to talk about a high ROI, right? I'm not a math guy, but if you divide
Sure.
60,000 by 24 hours,
Yep.
it's a ridiculous amount of pay.
And you also add to your bucket. You also add to your
Absolutely.
tools when you're going to those trainings. You're a stronger agent and you're growing. And I love what you said in the beginning was teachable. I mean, those people that are teachable,
Learning-based.
yeah, they want to learn. And so going to trainings only just help your pocketbook, also helps you as you're in there negotiating or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and I like the terms, learning based, coachable, trainable. I talk to my kids about this all the time versus ignorant based. And what I mean by that is, you suggest to somebody or tell somebody, well, here's how you should be doing it, or here's another way you could look at it. Oh, no, I do it this way. This is how I'm going to do it. So that's ignorant based.
Yes.
versus learning based. So
Yes.
so be learning based, new agents. So I'm hearing be learning based, be
Yep.
coachable.
Be
Doesn't
coachable.
mean you have to do what you're being told if something just isn't aligning with you, but be open minded, listen to it. And I'm also hearing go to some training.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And this maybe brings us into, I'm getting a little out of my like 1 through 10 concept, which doesn't really matter on this, is oftentimes, when an agent, someone gets their license and they're looking for a place to hang that license at, they often are very budget minded, understandably so, because, like you said, you don't get paid until you sell something, and we're talking potentially months. The reality is, though, you actually don't really have to pay anything to the broker until you start selling often, or it's very limited. And so the thing that I caution is the agent who goes to the broker that's just the really cheap few $100 a transaction.
Cheap game in town.
Because you're not going to get the training.
Right.
You're not going to get the environment of high productivity that you could in a place where you're actually going to have a commission that gets split out. So where you go really does matter. And you had a great line before you were talking. What was that around the it's not what you...
Oh, yeah. So back in my previous life, I would speak with a lot of people who just got licensed and they were shopping around. And they would talk about, well, what's your split? And when I say split, it's what does the company take and what do you keep? Split. And they would just ask about splits. And I would say, well, if you're just interested in splits, I'll tell you where you can go, who has like the cheapest game in town. But let me ask you, what's more important to you? What's on your paycheck or what's on your 1099?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I've always felt that way.
Yeah. And you look at the highest performing professionals. Every one of them has a coach. Every one of them's getting training. Right. So there's so much value to that. And so it's just very important that people process through and make sure, right? If I can give if I give you $1 and then, well, let's flip it. If I give you $5 and I say, Ken, I'm going to give you this $5 bill, and every $5 bill I give you, you're going to give me a $1. Right, you'd want to make that trade all day long,
right?
Because ultimately the idea is production and creating an incredible business and life for you and a lot of other people. And so, what environment is going to help you do that? And new agents, just make sure you study what is it that you're actually going to teach me.
Right, and we're not saying that maybe the cheapest game in town is not the right fit.
No.
Maybe it is.
It could be.
We are saying, listeners, don't hyper focus and have your only one thing. Well, just what's the cheapest? What's the cheapest? What's the cheapest?
But I think as a rookie, as you're coming into this industry, unless you grew up in this industry or you're really proficient in this industry, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
So you really need to be at a place where you do have some support, you do have training, you're not on an island. So paying for that extra $1, that $5, and that $1, the analogy you just used is perfect, because you need that as a brand new agent. What do? I got this brand new job or this career now. What am I doing with it? So it is good.
Right.
You do pay that little extra money.
Okay, what else? I'm a brand new agent. I don't want to make the same mistakes.
Yeah. So one of the things that we talked through briefly, I wrote down the line, I sold houses, so I sold 5 houses, so I know everything. I mean, I'll see that sometimes where it's like someone thinks they're pretty hot stuff pretty fast because they had some really good transactions, which is awesome, right? We want to celebrate that. And it just goes back to learning based and the idea of humility. Like, okay, so I sold 5, great. Well, we often talk about, maybe you're a 5-unit producer, maybe you're a 50-unit producer who's actually, you're disguised as a 50-unit producer, but actually you're a 100-unit producer, right? So it's like celebrate the wins and, okay, great, now what? How do I keep growing? How do I keep learning to better serve my clients and better accomplish my why in the business?
Sure.
Why I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's a
Good.
one.
Okay, other mistakes.
So maybe tying into the why piece.
Okay,
so it's hard when you start out. If you're a new agent watching this, I mean, it's whether you've had a tremendous amount of success or you're struggling, however you want to define it, it's hard. It's really hard. You have to create something out of nothing, and so that's where the idea of why are you in this business. So when it's a really hard day and you had this transaction fall apart, where you're like, well, that was my paycheck, and now how am I going to make rent? Things like that, right? Like when you have the motivation behind it that's bigger than just I need a paycheck. It's this is so that my kids can go to college, or this is so that we can buy our first house, or this is whatever your reason is. It better be big enough to push you through the hard seasons. So for a new agent, like, take some time and figure out why you're in this business.
Why you're doing it.
Why you're doing it. Because you need that to push you through, because the rewards are unending. I mean, you are the ceiling to your business. And if you put yourself around the right people with the big enough whys, do anything.
You're the driver of the bus.
Yeah, and when you mentioned, why did you come into the business? Something I used to hear a lot, and I know still goes on, is, well, the freedom and flexibility.
Sure.
And maybe the financial success. And they usually get the first two, but not the third. Because they'll come in and say, I'm my own boss, and the weather's nice. I'm going to go for a hike. And the next day, this is happening, or friends are coming in, I'm going to do this. And 3 months later, gosh, you can't make any money in this industry. I'm out of here. Really?
Right.
I had, back in like the very beginning, someone told me, and it sure has held to be true, especially without systems, where you're working for yourself. When you're busy, you can't afford to take time off because you're busy. And when you're not busy, you can't afford to take time off because you're not busy.
I heard that.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
It is a vicious cycle, which is another show about systems and what systems and leveraging looks like. But as a new agent, one of the biggest mistakes is, I'm coming into real estate to be my own boss, but I'm not accountable, and I can't be my own boss.
Right.
But they don't know that.
And that goes into time blocking. I mean, that's such a huge piece. You have to time block your schedule. I mean, I think it took me the first good year to figure out that, because I've never worked independently before.
Right.
It's a struggle. So for rookies, I mean, if you're coming into this industry, you have to know what your schedule, and stick by your schedule. This time I'm going to do this. This time I'm going to do this. I'm going to do lunch between 12 and 1, or that's my open time to hang out and talk, or whatever that is.
And how do I know what I'm going to be doing during these certain times? Because I'm brand new. And I hear that advice, and I'm like, God, that sounds great, but what am I filling my schedule with? I know lunch. I got that part.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the realtor's best part of the day.
Right.
Right.
But what am
Yeah.
what am I time blocking for? Where do I go? How do I do this?
Yeah. Great question. So kind of to tag into what you just said, and then to move into that question, you either control your time or your time controls you. And if you don't gain control of your time, then that's going to be a really challenging business to be in for the long haul, because even if you get busy, you're going to be out of control. And then you won't be able to enjoy your life to the extent you should. So when it comes to the question of what should I be doing?
Should I
okay,
do?
so time blocking sounds good. Well, what the heck do I do with that? The one thing that should never change, regardless of your production level or where you're at in the business, is lead generation.
Yes.
You have to protect your lead generation, because what we see happen over and over is agents' businesses go like this. This is the image of what you just shared.
Yes.
Right?
This up and down
the
wave,
image of
yeah.
like,
Yes.
I'm so busy because I have all these transactions, blah. Well, you're not lead generating then, potentially. And then all of a sudden those deals close, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I have no money coming in, blah. And then you lead generate, and then you have... So lead generation, if you're going to protect one time, it's lead generation. And that doesn't just mean, sometimes we get the image of, you're just calling expireds and cold calling. Like, well, maybe some people love that, but what are you following up with your clients? Are you building relationship? Are you taking a client to lunch, right?
Right.
Being strategic around committing to, every week I'm going to talk to X number of people during these times, and I will not change this time unless my mom is in the emergency room.
Right.
And one of the things that my coach has shared with me is, because it's easy to let the hard things go and you fill it with
Sure.
other stuff, right? So you need accountability. But my coach said, if you erase it, super cheesy, but it makes sense, you have to replace it.
Yep.
So if you're going to erase it, you're going to replace it, Rick, and you're going to tell me where you replace it, because you're not getting off the hook from lead
So
generation.
you're being held accountable.
So in the one thing, podcast and book written by Gary Keller, Jay Papasan, they talk about accountability. And if you write things down, this isn't exact, but something to the extent of, 36%.
Yes.
You're 36% more likely to do something if you actually just write it down.
Yes.
And then if you have a true human being keeping you accountable, and we use the term keeping you able, right? Like, not just they're going to beat you up, but hey, I'm here to help you make sure that you accomplish
Right.
this.
Yeah.
you're nearly 90% more likely
That's
to actually do it.
fascinating.
So for a new agent, and any agent for that matter, commit to something and write it down and tell someone what that is. Whether
Yeah.
it's your why, it's your time block, it's the number of lead generation appointments you're going to create. It has to be that way. Otherwise, you're going to
So you don't
flounder.
necessarily, as a new agent, maybe short on funds, you don't necessarily have to spend money on a coach who's holding you accountable. It can be an office mate. It could be another
Absolutely.
new agent
Absolutely.
who's holding you accountable. You hold each other accountable, but you have to do it.
You have to do it.
The accountability partner is the key too. Like you were saying, that's it right there. It's accountability. If you don't have the money to spend on the coach.
And you mentioned lead generation, and I've heard Gary Keller many times. That is our job. We are lead generators. You
Right.
have to lead generate. But where people get hemmed up over that, because that's a scary thing. You mean I need to talk to people? I want to be a secret agent. No, you don't want to be a secret agent. You have to talk to people.
You won't make any money if you're a secret agent.
Right?
Come
but
on.
where new agents, where I see them fail, is they find all the excuses possible, and even others that are impossible, to rationalize why they did not time block and do lead generation. Because reality is, I'm scared. It's uncomfortable. It's hard. So I'll
Don't like
find reasons-
rejection?
I don't like rejection.
Yeah.
So I'll find reasons not to do it. And
There's always tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow.
right,
I'll
which
just do it tomorrow.
Now we got to replace what I didn't do today and double up tomorrow. But there was a time when I was a productivity coach, and I had this conversation a lot with new agents, is you're scared because you don't understand what that conversation looks like. So many new agents think, if I'm going to call somebody, like, okay, call my friend. So I call Rick. Oh, hey, Rick, Ken Sax, Keller Williams Spokane. Are you looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Rick, you're not going to take my call after the second time, because that's just horribly uncomfortable,
Right.
embarrassing. Instead, my job is just to, Rick, I don't want you to forget about me or what I do. So, I'm going to learn if you're in my sphere. I already know what your interests are. And so I'm going to look for reasons to call you, and I'm going to call you, send you a card, a handwritten note card, something on a regular basis. And I'm going to have a system that tells me, today, Rick's on my list. I have to touch Rick, whatever that touch looks like. And so, knowing your interests, I'm going to be looking for things that are happening in the news, or, hey, I just started guitar lessons and I know you've played guitar. Rick, so the call is not, do you want to buy, sell, or invest? Rick, I was thinking about you. I started guitar lessons. Man, it's so fun, but it's scary. Like, how long do you think it'll take me before I can play, Mary Had a Little Lamb?
Right.
And then we're going to talk, and you're going to be reminded of who I am, and I'm going to let you go until the next 30 days when I call you again or send you a handwritten card. That's what it looks like. That's an easy call. And you feel good because
Right.
I thought about you and guitar, and you like talking about guitar. That's it.
Just find something
That's
to
it.
connect up with them.
It's that top of mind.
Yep.
And I'm not going to do the whole exercise that I do when I used to meet with new agents, but it's top of mind. So when somebody says, I need a real estate agent, a realtor, I'm going to sell, I want you to think of me.
Yep.
If you're going to think of me, I have to be top of mind. So
Yep.
how do you achieve top of mind?
Yep.
And what does that look like? So I'll ask a new agent, hey, give me 3 brands of potato chips. Right now, 3 brands. Do it, Tanya.
Oh my gosh.
Do it.
Hey, Pringles, Doritos.
Oh, I
3,
sorry.
okay.
What?
Right?
I was so excited.
No, that was 3. And people usually, and I'm not going to ask you to give me brands of shoes, but people usually stall out after 2 or 3 because that's
Right.
our capacity.
Yep.
So I want to be one of the 3 agents that come out when somebody asks you, Tanya, I need to sell my house. Who do you know?
Right.
And for me to be that agent, I have to stay top of mind. And top of mind is calling you on a regular basis or sending you a handwritten note card or taking you to lunch or whatever. You're not going to forget about me.
Nope.
Yep.
It's not rocket science.
Bingo. And this is where, throughout that, not that this is the systems
getting
and
a little
models
too
tools
excited
show.
here.
I know you are.
And what you're sharing, though, is like if you have a database of 100 people, right,
Yeah.
which is not a big database,
Right.
but it's something.
Yeah.
Even that, if that can get overwhelming unless you're
Yes.
systematic around it.
Yes.
Right. So that's where, statistically, you're looking, it was years ago 36, and the newer study, I believe, is like 39 touches that you have to have a year with a client to stay top of mind. And that sounds ridiculous.
Right.
How in the heck am I going to do that?
Right.
And yet with systems, and this is where it comes back to maybe your brokerage or the CRM you're using,
Yes.
where it's like,
What tools
hey,
do they
you know
have?
what? I have a neighborhood snapshot. I put their address in, and bada bing, bada boom, they have a custom web page that updates every 15 minutes. 12 touches right there. I don't have to think about it. And now my CRM, every time they integrate or
CRM?
they use customer relationship management,
Okay.
consumer relationship management. Good question. Now, it's telling me every time they're engaging with their website. So now it's helping me be smarter with that person, right? So whatever your tools are, I personally just knock 12 of them off. And it's adding value, not just me saying, hey, you want to buy, sell, or list
Right.
with Rick? No, don't do that. So figure out how you can automate that as much as possible.
Because I, as the consumer, I get that neighborhood snapshot, and it's telling me what's going on in my neighborhood, what my house might be worth, what my neighbors are selling their house for. It's about me.
Exactly.
I'm interested in that.
Exactly.
And so going back to that with the agent, the rookie agent needs to keep that consumer, that client, connected in some sense.
Right.
Yep.
Something,
Which
whatever
would be
it
a
is.
great question, as you kind of implied, when you're shopping around, where to hang your license, who you want to work with. What tools
Yep.
do you have that would enable me to do that? That's a great question.
And that's also with the follow-up with your clients. Even though you talk to them that one day, the next month, you still need to kind of connect
Right.
up with them because you could be losing that money.
Right.
Out of sight, out of mind. Again, we're going back to that.
Yeah, and what we're talking about is lead generation, but it's also database, right? So like database is where the gold is. I mean, the idea is that you want to continuously add more and more people into your database so that you can foster those relationships, because the bigger that database gets, the greater likelihood you have of getting more transactions coming out of that, help more people, make more money, and then before you know it, you're no longer a rookie in the business.
Yeah, it reminds me, thinking about this, about a week ago, I saw on a Facebook post for, it was a realtor organization, and somebody was on there and said, hey, I just got my license. I don't know who should I work for. And I'm reading all the responses. Oh, ABC, work for company, DEF, work for this, they're the best, like nothing of substance. And I normally never respond to these things, but I did. And I simply said, everything people are posting is irrelevant and meaningless. What do you want? What are your goals? What's important to you?
Yep.
Establish that,
Yes.
and then talk with different firms to see who closely relates and aligns with what it is you
Right.
want. I mean, I don't know how else to do that versus everybody just regurgitating the firm they work for and how much they love it. That's great, you love it. But maybe I don't like Rocky Road ice cream, and so that's not going to do well for me. I like this.
Yep.
And that goes to a great point, which we might have covered. I don't know. The
That's
idea
good.
of like interview more than one.
Yes.
Right? Like
yes.
go see who offers
Talk to
what.
different
And
companies.
there's no like good company, bad company. It's just
No.
Rocky Road and vanilla. And
Yeah.
and we're not the right fit for everybody, and everybody's not the right fit for us. But
Right.
you know what? Maybe you are. And
Yes.
if we don't talk, we don't know.
And how about this? I used to do this, and here's the roster of our agents. Call
Call
Go
agents
to-
on there.
Call
Oh,
agents. That's what I
love
was going
it.
to say. Yeah, call
Yeah,
agents.
see
Love
what they
that.
have to say,
'Cause
because I don't want you to think I'm going to tell you just what you want to hear. Call them.
Call
Exactly.
and talk to them, and you'll know.
Yep. You got it.
So we're almost done with this. so we
Yes,
want to
yes,
kind of
we
wrap
are.
this up. But I
Thank you,
wanted to
Tanya.
say one little last thing is,
Okay.
or a couple things real quick. But when you sell a house as a rookie, you need to keep that person updated. You need to follow up with them. You're not just done. You're not just the one done off and running.
Right.
Because so many agents forget to follow up with
They
those
do.
people because people are moving, they're changing, lives are changing. So keep up with the people that you have sold a house to, even if it was a buyer or whatever, you need to.
And that, I think of lead gen, I think of time blocking, I think of my database. If I'm doing those things,
Right.
I'm doing that.
You got it.
See, and those are easy
I
calls.
always send out just real quick on January is Smoke Detector Awareness Month, and so I always send out. So the first thing that they're thinking about in the month of January in the new year is a brand new battery that comes in and says, "Hey, I want to make sure you're safe and your family's
Right.
safe. Change your battery."
Love
so
it.
just another little things that rookies can do,
Yeah.
just
Love
to
it.
keep in front of them.
We're down to about 2 minutes. One thing that I was thinking about was you come into the business what are your goals? What are your business goals? I want to do X number of transactions, whatever. Find the people that have done that and are doing that. Go to them, because you're going to hear, if I have 10 people, I'm going to hear 10 different ways of accomplishing that. And maybe the way this person's doing it, oh, no, I could never do that. Well, maybe. And then maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I could totally do that. I love that. And now I'm just going to duplicate, copy exactly what you're doing. See, where we fail as new brokers and as people, we put our spin on it. We're control freaks. We want to make it our own. Stop. Do exactly what you're doing. And I don't have the right to change anything until my results are equal to or better than your results.
One last thing. I was Rookie of the Year my first year out for Keller Williams for Spokane. I'm very excited. But I ran into 2 agents that were also Rookies of the Year. And I said, do you have 20 minutes I can sit down and just pick your brain on what you did to succeed?
Yes.
And they said yes. And I have those notes still to find out what they did, because I copied and pasted everything they did. I should. But everything they did. So you're exactly right. That's one thing. And I'm proof. It happened. Yes.
It's not rocket science.
No, exactly.
It's not rocket science.
And just to tag into both of those, I think what's so important from that, right? When you say, hey, go talk to these other agents, and they're going to have different things. Go into an environment where people are doing more than you are by a lot.
Oh,
by a lot.
Law of the lid.
Right? Law of the lid, where
Love
like
it.
you're going to hit a ceiling at some point, but you want to make sure that if you hit your ceiling, there's someone else who's broken through 10 of those.
Yes.
And not just that, but we're in a sales environment, tight market, competitors, right? We're competitors who are both going after the same listings, same buyers. Make sure the environment that you interview towards and ask questions around, is it a culture of abundance? Is it one where you can go to that top producer, or you can go to the Rookie of the Year, or 2 or 3 of them, and ask what they've done and how they're doing it, and they're an open book.
That's a great point.
There's so much scarcity that I've seen at different points in time in this industry.
I've seen it too.
And if you find an environment where people are wide open in what they'll tell you, it's a win-win, because what happens is, if you're right, the highest level of learning is when you what? It's when you teach. So that agent is growing at a higher level, and then you're growing at a higher level, and then so you both end up winning and having a lot more fun doing it.
So true.
That's
Love
great.
it. Thank you.
So I'm a new agent, or I'm a week from taking my test. And Rick, I like what you had to say, and I think I want to call for an interview. Look in that camera, and how do I get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can get a hold of me, either my phone number, it's 509-954-1786, or rickflann@kw.com. And ultimately, hopefully what you're hearing this is like, we're not a high-pressure bunch. We're just a group who essentially wants to see people succeed at the highest level, wherever that's at. And so, yeah, I'd love to connect. Whether you're new into the business or you're at a current brokerage and you feel like you've hit your ceiling, a lot of what I do is coach around that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a dude. So anyway,
True. No,
yeah.
it's so true. I agree.
Good.
And side note, then you get the Tanyas and you get the Ken Sax designated broker, right? Like,
We're all
it's
here to
really
help each other to grow.
the crew of awesome.
All right, folks. We are at the end of our show once again, and thank you for joining us. You have been listening to Real Estate Talk, and I'm your host, Ken Sax. See you next time.
Ask a question, recommend a guest, or hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com.